Good afternoon to everybody who's here. Like Jack said, a warm welcome to all of you, and really thank you for being here to hear from our wonderful candidates today. My name is Luke Abrahamson, and I have the honor of being the moderator today. And we're here to engage in a meaningful dialogue with individuals here who inspire to be representatives for our school board, and therefore, by extension, our kids who are here, and want to make our community better, want to make our schools better, and therefore make the future better as well. And so the purpose of this forum is to provide you information of what our candidates here are standing for, what they're inspiring to do, and ultimately their platforms. And that's the hope, is by the end of this, you'll better get to know who they are, what they're standing for, and really what they are trying to represent as they run for school board here. So before we proceed, a couple of ground rules here. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to respond to the questions that are posed. We have a timekeeper, Heather, in the front row here, who will signal when you have 30 minutes left remaining, and then also signal again when time is done. And then we kindly ask the audience to please refrain from applause, comments, or interruptions during the candidates' responses and after, to ensure a fair and respectful environment here. And once again, we thank you for being involved in the democratic process here, as important decisions are on the ballot, not just in terms of the school board election, but also with a referendum, which we'll have an opportunity to speak about later. And with that, you guys ready to get started? All right. So what I'm going to do is ask the question, and then we're going to pass it down in alphabetical order by first name here, and just go one by one, and then during each of the questions, we'll start with somebody else so that they'll have a chance to respond first. All right? Perfect. So let's start with introductions. And so if you don't mind, introduce yourself and why are you running for school board?
Hi, my name is Byron Schwab, and I'm running for school board because I'm already on the school board. That's one of the reasons. This is my 12th year on the school board, and during that time I've also represented District 197 for 6 years on the East Metro Integration School Board, and for 5 years now on the Intermediate 917 School Board. I feel I bring a lot of expertise in education and in leadership, experience as a school board member, understanding the position of a school board member, what they do, and where they do not cross parameters. And I also feel I bring a history to the school board. I bring age to the school district, to the school board. We have a large senior population in our school district, and I feel it's important to represent that voice as well. I was principal at Pilot Knob for 13 years, so I have a great understanding of the school district. I have a strong background in Minnesota school finance, in Minnesota school policy, and I hope that I can continue to use that as my contributions to our school board and to our school district. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Morgan Steele. I'm a West St. Paul resident and mom of 2 Somerset students, one in kindergarten and one in 3rd grade. My kindergartner was at the Early Learning Center last year, where she received some services that have been life-changing for our family and for how she functions day to day. I grew up in Brooklyn Center, went to Cornell College, where I double majored in French and secondary ed, and then I moved down to Texas, and I spent 7 years teaching in a Title I district down there before I moved back home. And then moved to West St. Paul. I am the French teacher at Richfield High School now. I am in my 17th year of teaching in public education. I forgot all of the notes I wrote down. And in my 17 years, I've served in various leadership roles. I'm running for school board because I believe that every student deserves to feel safe, seen, and valued in their educational setting. I believe that every student deserves to have tools to have success in whatever path they take in their future, and I think that that's very important. I believe in the equity work that our district is doing, and I want to be helpful in moving that forward and continuing on the path that we're on. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Randy Walls, and I've had opportunities to witness the profound effect that showing up for each other can have on a community, that uplifting and supporting each other. That's work that I feel inspired to do and have done. With regard to running for school board, that's something I never considered for myself. And it wasn't until near the end of July that someone I have great admiration for and respect for came to me with this idea. And at the end of our conversation, I not only thought that I could run for school board, but that I should. I'm someone who believes that one's gifts, talents, assets, energies should be used in service to others to make the world a better place. So I took a step back and I looked at my work and my experience and my involvement in the community as a parent, as a teacher, as a helper, as a creative. And I looked at where my family was and where I was in our lives and the needs of the communities, and I realized that I could continue that work of uplifting and supporting our community by serving at the local level on the school board. So I said yes, because someone came to me and said, I believe in you. And that was transformative. Know that, should I be given the opportunity to serve on the school board, all of the work that I would do would be with the intent of saying to somebody else, I believe in you. All of the policies, all the initiatives, all of the visions set forth by the school board, those are actions that can say to a community, I believe in you. It's important work, hard work, work that I would be honored to do, and that's why I'm running for school board. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rowan Ellsworth. I'm the mother to a third grader who attends Garlow Elementary. I'm a high school teacher, I'm a renter, and I'm transgender. I'm running for school board because I understand the importance of strong policy to protect marginalized people and allow us to thrive in this world. I transitioned publicly in the district where I still teach. Many people were very supportive of me, many were not. I had a lot of hostility from many people that were there. It didn't matter. I had strong policies that backed me up and allowed me to be effective and to thrive as a teacher. I want to bring that same experience to the board and that same vision and recognition of how important policies are. The 3 pillars of my campaign are equity, community, and opportunity. On the equity front, the board just recently passed an equity policy. It's a good policy. It's one that I definitely support. We need to evaluate that policy and understand how it is working through the lens of the various marginalized groups that we serve. Policies do not affect people equally. And you have big blind spots if you don't go to each of those marginalized groups and understand how that policy is impacting them. On the community front, I think the board right now is doing a really good job of listening to district level admin. Something that I've heard from teachers, principals, and community members is that we need to do a better job of directly engaging with our other stakeholders. As a board member, I intend to reach out to students, teachers, staff, community members, and family and directly understand their needs and what they need, how policies are affecting them and what they would like to see. Finally, on the opportunity front, our opportunities need to exist for our students in reality, not just on paper. One example of that presently is that at Two Rivers, we have some really wonderful college credit-bearing courses. The demographics of those courses do not line up with the demographics of our school. There are some really great programs that are making really big strides in that. And I want to support those programs and figure out where can we build on those successes and how can we move forward so that all of our students are seeing real success in all of our schools. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Tim Awney. I'm a resident here in Mendota Heights. I grew up in Grand Rapids. Parents were teachers. I had a great education. It allowed me to go out to Boston and attend MIT, where I met a lot of other people who benefited from a great public education. I firmly believe it's a cornerstone for this nation and our democracy. I am 3 reasons for running. One, I just find the district energizing. I'm active with basketball boosters. I'm going to be mentoring this year for a Warrior Seminar, if people are familiar with that. Like to attend Parent Connect meetings. I did, I think, 2 last year. If anybody has a student at Two Rivers, I highly recommend it. If you have more detailed questions, there's somebody in the back who can answer them. I think she attends every one. But one of the reasons are good, they're reflective of it. We have some really incredible staff. Dr. Johnson, I think, is an amazing principal. In terms of My motivations for running are specific things that are kind of in front and center in my brain. We have a lot of hard work to do. We have teachers that are underpaid. We have some staff that are underpaid. We are having a hard time attracting people, but there's no magic wand. There's no bottomless well of money. We're going to have to think of decisions that can address short-term needs we have to make sure we're providing the proper resource in the classroom, but we're doing it with a balance to long-term planning. It's not going to be fun. My background is private sector, and don't interpret that as code speak for a business, a public school is business. That's not it. But budgets, analytics, regarding other issues, I'm a science math guy. I think those are skills that would allow me to maybe ask some questions that might be outside the normal purview of what's asked in an educational environment. The other thing I'm really passionate about, I'm very frustrated by, for lack of a better descriptor, disinformation. People, they say, what's going on in our schools? And they say, this is happening in our schools, our kids are being taught this, and our kids are made to feel this way. And I find it patently false. And we need people who are willing to comfortably stand up to bullies. Bullies who aren't telling the truth are really toxic, in my opinion. And I'm not looking to pick any fights with anybody, and parental rights need to be respected. But our curriculum is very solid, and it has evolved. The story is richer and more complex, but it's a better truth, and it's truth that makes us better, not only for what we've accomplished, I'm obviously talking about history now, as a people, but where we've fallen short. And by studying that is how we learn to prevent doing something twice, or how to do it better. Last but not least, this is a very unique is maybe not the right word, but it's kind of a perfect size. I don't know if anybody attended the parade yesterday, which was great. The game, which was awesome. I left the game when it was well in hand, and I don't live that far away. Am I done? Oh.
So finish the thought.
I finished the thought. I'm in my backyard, and I hear Journey, Don't Stop Believing. My first concert, by the way, if you want to get into my bank account. And all the kids are singing, and it was just magical. I mean, there's energy, there's positivity. This is a great district. I think everybody here knows it's great, just wants to make it better. Thank you. Sure.
All right, thank you all. Thank you for the introductions. So we'll jump into the meat of it here then with the other questions. And for the audience, these questions were submitted from you guys, from the stakeholders, from the community, regarding just what they want to hear, what you want to hear. And so we'll jump in from there. Do you need some other? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, let's go. So this question: what can the district do to ensure that students and families from diverse backgrounds are included and treated equitably? So Morgan, we're going to start with you.
I have my notes out too, so don't miss anything. There are a couple of different things that when I think about how we can ensure that our students and our families are treated equitably and are equitably represented in our school system. First is we need to make sure that our staff, all staff, is representative of our student body. And one of the things that we could do, just an idea I have, is to recruit at historically Black colleges and universities and try to get teaching talent from those schools here so that our teaching staff looks more like our student body. Another thing that I think we need to be doing is working on our contracts so that we are more attractive, so we can attract new staff of all kinds and retain staff so that our staff, again, is reflective of our student body. Another thing that I think our district is doing well, and I would like to see us pushing a little further, is that AmazeWorks curriculum that our elementary schools is using. It's still being piloted right now. Just making sure that the text that we are using, that we're not pulling texts out that leave some of our students' identities out or leave their family identities out. And then I also think that another thing we could be doing is promoting that STAMP test for the seal of biliteracy. We have so many multilingual students in our community, and we can honor their multilingualism by making sure that students and families know that the STAMP test, or there are other ways to get that seal of bilingualism. The district where I teach pays for one test for every senior, and I think that that's something that we can explore to make sure that we are really honoring what our students bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I am fully committed to our district's efforts towards diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. One of the most simple things and important things that our district has done has been to declare that we are on an equity journey, meaning they're committed to the work. These things are ongoing, there have been achievements, but there needs to be more work done, and that all welcomed experiences are valid and ideas. I would like to challenge us as a community, though, to look at our personal efforts in light of DEI initiatives. People keep asking what I would do. I will further support the continuing efforts of the school board with regard to policies and looking at all the discussions and decisions through the lens of DEI. But for this to be successful in our district, it needs to be an everyone initiative, collaboratively. And I don't have all the answers, and that's not why I'm running for school board. I won't be someone who sits on the board with all the answers and the expertise and the ideas and the ways to tell people what they should be doing. But I am someone who looks at things from a different angle. For me, it's about us, and that us can stem and should stem from the school board. So I would like to challenge us as a community to get involved with these initiatives by looking at what we do. Who are the people at our meetings or not at our meetings? Why? Why not? What can we do about that? Who are the kids at activities participating and not participating? Again, why? Why not? What can we do about that? I truly believe that it's a collective effort of continuing to support these large macro initiatives at a district policy and school resource and program level. But our goals cannot be reached if we are not looking at the micro level, all the tiny small things that we as individuals in the community can do. You know, I'm up here because somebody came to me and asked me and invited me, and I had never considered it before. What power in that to go up to someone and ask them to come to a meeting, to be in an activity, to look at what barrier may be in place. All of us doing something like these tiny individual level things, there's real change and power in things like that too. And then the other essential related piece of this also needs to be how we're educating the portion of our population who have been traditionally included. Looking at how we are educating and leading our students to embrace diversity and raise global citizens through our actions and our lessons in our leadership, and what that truly means beyond rhetoric and in actual practice, because as they say, together we thrive. Thank you.
So first and foremost, thinking about the school board, people are going to have blind spots. We all do. If we want diverse schools, we need a diverse board. I bring some piece of diversity that a lot of people don't, that are on the board now and that are running presently, in a couple of ways. Number one, I'm a member of the queer community. That is one of those places that our queer students have a lot of challenges that a lot of people don't necessarily recognize. We've got really great groups that serve them. We've got GSAs, we've got our GISO over at Two Rivers. These are really great programs. But this is one of those places that if we don't have someone with that viewpoint, we can't bring that perspective. Another place, I'm a renter. I'm a single mom. I know what it is to be balancing scarce resources that are competing for a lot of different things. This is the reality of running an educational program requires this, right? This is another piece that's different than what we're looking at for other board members. Finally, I think it's really important that we recognize that if we want, as Morgan was saying earlier, we need to have our staff looking like our student body. This can't happen with our contracts looking like they are now. You can make significantly more getting a job at Target than you can being a paraprofessional in our district. This is not what all the districts around us look like. We need to find ways to strengthen our contracts for our staff. This also includes teachers. If I was to come and try and work in Bloomington, I teach in Bloomington. If I was going to try and work in this district, I would, at year 7 of my teaching career, take a $7,700 pay cut. I flat out can't afford that, right? I can't make rent if that's the case. We need to find a way to strengthen these contracts. This is not just about rewarding staff, this is about retaining and attracting people. And when it really comes down to finding ways to be equitable for our kids, there's lots of wonderful programs that are out there. I can't list all of them right now. I definitely support all of the wonderful things that are happening here. It's not necessarily a board level decision to whether to do these things or not. But I fully support them. I would be engaging with the staff that are running these things, encouraging our students that are leading affinity groups, our staff that are leading affinity groups, and work to make sure that everybody feels that their voice is important and included as I speak to all the folks that I'm serving.
The district should be applauded for the steps they've taken, and they're clearly broadcasting what the goal is and what the policy is. But DEI is it's a hot button, and a lot of people, it kind of links into what I said about curriculum. Sometimes people are operating from maybe not the full picture or not the full context. So I guess my interest as a board member is to see how we can better effectively message so people understand what the aims and the goals are. I don't fall into a marginalized cohort. Am I resentful of that? No, of course not. Do I applaud and understand it? Yes, I do. And I understand it because I spend a lot of time with people who are engaged and informed, done the research, understand why it benefits. And to be honest, as a private sector person, you win if you have a lot of voices in the room from a lot of different perspectives saying, how can we implement this particular strategy? Whether it's retaining and attracting and retaining talent, etc. But in terms of the messaging, I think we can really do a good job of letting people understand what the process is and how it works. My son can be in a classroom, and it's not that he's not welcome, it's only for marginalized kids. It's no, he's part of this, and they make sure marginalized kids are part of this. And those kids feel comfortable talking about their experiences, prejudices they've been the victim of, so on and so forth. So before he in no way feels excluded, and he doesn't, and the district does not do this. But we have to tell people that's the way the process works. And that's why all of our students are going to benefit by us working hard to achieve this goal.
Luke, if I could ask you to repeat the question.
What can the district do to ensure that students and families from diverse backgrounds are included and treated equitably?
Included and treated equitably. Let me give you a little background in what the district has already done. In fact, probably in the early 2000s, if not even before that, equity was on the forefront in our school district. And since then, we do have a full-time equity coordinator. And 2 years ago, we did an equity audit, which gave the school board and the school district some really good information about directions that we could go in, areas that needed change, so that all of our students were being included. There were no barriers, and all students had the same opportunities. Because of that, we have looked at our AP and higher level classes and provided pathways for all students to be able to participate in those. Through grants, we've been able to provide tutors and support mentors for students that would not normally have even thought they were able to take those classes. We are narrowing that gap between students that are marginalized and white students that are taking those classes. It's in our annual report. We also, it was actually even more like 5-6 years ago, we developed a set of equity questions that we use in making decisions, whether it's the school board in approving a policy, or it's adopting a curriculum, it's offering a new class, a different curriculum. Those questions are asked if it's a barrier, if it's excluding anyone, if it provides an equal opportunity for all students, marginalized or not. From the equity audit that we did, we also have now passed an equity policy, and we did that in August. It was something that we have been working on and looking forward to. Just because you have a policy doesn't mean everything is fine. So now it's the challenge of making sure that that policy is good and that we're meeting the parameters of that policy. So we will, that's one of the things that I want to do. Also a little background on myself. When I was, the last few years that I was principal out now, I was also the equity coordinator for the school district. I've had extensive background training in equity. I was a state-trained teacher of teachers and actually even taught classes for staff, 197 classes in equity. Thank you.
Very important insights. Thank you all for that. All right, moving on to question 3. And for this one, we'll start with Randy. So question 3, how can the board help promote and prioritize school safety?
So, I'm slightly resourceful, so I entered this question, how the board can help promote and prioritize safety, into ChatGPT. And I was super impressed with that answer. You should do this. It gave 18 different things that a school board could do. And a really great summary that explained that school boards need to look at this holistically, that it's multifaceted, requiring updates and adjustments, being prepared, proactive, all great things that our district should do, does, continues to do. So then I wondered, what are you really looking for from me with this question? Because that answer was really good. I remember the exact moment, the exact situation when I first heard about the tragedy at Sandy Hook. I had a kiddo that same age. She was a first grader too. And our school, too, was easily accessible to unwelcomed visitors at that time. I've had a kiddo be the victim of persistent bullying in our district, being pushed to the point of telling me, that not waking up the next day might be the solution to this. I know what it's like to battle against society telling our kids they must have every social media thing out there. I know what it's like to be completely overwhelmed by that. How to balance that, monitor that, set boundaries that might affect my kid or not, totally making things up as I go. I get it, I've panicked. As a caretaker, I've been afraid of all the things. I've also been reassured by resources and supports out there, by policies and improvements, and knowing that people in our community care for our kiddos as much as I do. That we're looking at these safety policies, but also how the policies affect kids, and maybe disproportionately so. Safety is paramount. ChatGPT knows that. Should I serve on the school board, know that I will be there to work however I can to promote and prioritize safety. Thank you.
So looking at the current policies and procedures that exist, I'm comfortable with the physical safety of our students in the school district. I think that the schools are doing the things they're supposed to be doing. My experience picking up my kiddo from here or participating in school events is that it's a safe place, it's a secure place. Yes, there's always more to do. That is going to be something that comes from outside advisors and that sort of thing as we learn better ways to keep our kids physically safe. What concerns me is the emotional safety of our children. A kid cannot learn if they don't feel safe, right? The physical safety of the kid, that matters a lot. And it feels like we've got a really good system for that. To me, it's more thinking about their emotional needs. The district has been working with social emotional learning. This is ways of teaching kids to understand their emotions, to regulate their emotions, and to be able to exist in spaces where they're not fully comfortable, and still to be able to make progress in the learning. I fully support those sorts of things. I also think that when we look at our BIPOC, trans, and non-binary students, we need to build policies that specifically protect and honor their identities. Many of the districts around us are already doing this. We're not doing this here. And that is ways that we can make sure that we are honoring these people and making sure that they have a safe place to exist and that they have strong policies to back them up. Right now, we've got plenty of things in procedure that feel good in a lot of places. If they're not set in policy, procedures can change really quickly. And that's not something that we want to see. Finally, I think that we need to ask our students what makes you feel safe here? For situations like bullying, this happens at this is a big initiative at the school district where I teach, that we recognize that a lot of the reasons that our LGBTQ students were opting into online classes and out of their in-person classes was because they were being treated badly by staff and by students. We've made a lot of strides in getting them back into classes, and that's because we don't tolerate it the same ways. We never would have known that if we didn't go and ask the students directly, like, what is keeping you from these classes? We need to engage our students directly and ask what they need and follow through and make sure that they feel safe.
I'm going to bisect it too in terms of physical, actually trisect it. Physical safety, well, for the past number of years, my access has been to Two Rivers, and I agree the process by which people can get into the building, I feel good about that. More importantly, there's no ambiguity. If something happens, if there's a triggering event, top to bottom, staff, students, everybody knows what to do to make people safe. Obviously, that should be applauded, but continually examine how can be improved. This whole area is something where I hope districts, the state of Minnesota, heaven forbid at a national level, there's collaborative efforts to find best practices and what works. A, because you're not paying for the same real estate twice, but the goal of keeping students safe. Rowan made a lot of very good points, and at the expense of sounding like as a school board member, I want to spend more time with parents than with students and teachers. Again, I go back to messaging. A lot of parents have absolutely no idea what can transpire on this phone, and I'm not necessarily faulting them, but to the extent that they can be messaged, and maybe it's something where the district starts offering, learning for parents. I think parents, if given the opportunity, they would given the opportunity, they would gladly seek out a chance to find out, what can I do? How can I monitor? How do I converse with my child? What can I do to look at that child's phone? Last one here, ugly word, COVID. That was, it seems like such rearview mirror. It's still around. RSV is really nasty, and it's definitely doubly nasty for elementary school age kids. And I'm only bringing this up because as a school board, you might be presented with a situation where you have to pivot. It's going to be an obnoxiously unpopular decision if we tell parents for the next 3 weeks we're flipping back to 2020. There's going to be a lot of cold stares at Target if that happens. But if that's the public health directive that makes the most sense and is supported by the current data, what we've learned, I'm willing to make that call, despite what people might say. But I think that's something we can't lose sight of that. We have to learn lessons that we've learned to what we can do, not only to make students safe, but making sure they're coming home and keeping their home safe too.
Safety and security. Well, let me tell you a couple of things that we have already done. And I really applaud our district in our bond referendums for building. We've always kept safety and security at the forefront. We have been able to redo all of the entrances to our schools so that we have safer entrances in a more secure building. We've been able to redo all of our parking lots, and even though drop off and pickup can be difficult, it is much, much, much safer than it was, say, 5 years ago even. We have some very sound policies that look at safety and security in our school district. They're reviewed annually. All of our schools have a lockdown procedure, a safety kind of procedures in case of emergencies. Those are reviewed annually as well. Now, as a school board member, I have to have confidence in our superintendent, who is very, very conscious of safety, equity, security, inclusion, very. I have to have confidence that he will bring us the recommendations and the information that we need, or we meet with him on a monthly basis. If we have things that we bring to him, that something is done about that. I'm very pleased with our focus area on social and emotional learning, and one of them is on equity, and the other one, the third one is on career and college ready preparedness. Kids can be safe in a building, but we also don't want them to feel like they're in a prison, and that they don't have any, that's bottom line, that's what we kept in mind. We don't want our kids to feel like they're locked in, and this is a place that, you know, if you're not inside, it's scary out there. And that's working with your staff and helping them to help our children feel welcome, feel part, feel needed, feel accepted, and feel safe wherever they are. If they are outside, we have adult supervision that is aware of procedures that are necessary. So bottom line, I would say, I as a school board member need to have confidence that my superintendent will bring us something, will bring us recommendations that we need to act on, or if I have a concern, I can take it to him and something will happen with it. Thank you.
There are quite a few approaches, and I kind of thought about this in two ways when it comes to prioritizing safety. And I want to first say that I'm really grateful to see that we have a very clear safety response protocol this year. I've been really happy to see that and happy to see this new language being used this year. But I too looked at it as emotional safety and physical safety. And I think the partnerships that we have in our buildings with our mental health specialists in building to work with students, our chemical health specialists at the high school, the partnerships happening between families and the school on educating around chemical health and chemical use, and making sure that we're continuing to work in that way, and making it a priority as a school board to the superintendent and district administration that this is important to us, right? That our students' mental health, that is something that is important to us, because again, if students are not feeling safe, they cannot learn and they cannot achieve at high levels. I also think that the equity policy is wonderful, and I'd like to see it be taken a step further to a policy that puts actual protection in place for students. For example, where I work, we just have a policy in the process of being written that provides protection to students who are transitioning during the year. So there are very explicit protections for students, and I would like to see that step happen for us as well. When it comes to physical safety for our students, I think that the bond referendum has obviously made that so we have secure entrances in our buildings, and that is wonderful. However, I think anyone with a child who goes to school, and any educator, any staff member in a building can tell you that after a tragedy, and unfortunately it happens too frequently, we walk into the building and we know exactly which areas need to be fixed. And I think that as a school board member, those are the times when we need to listen the most. And I think in my experience, sometimes when I go in those moments, when I am emotional, but just because I'm emotional, it doesn't mean that I don't know what things need to be fixed to keep my students safe and to keep myself safe. That yes, there are emotions there, but there's also logic in that, right? So listening in those moments especially. Thank you.
Thank you for those thoughtful answers. So we're gonna move on to the last question, question 4 here. And for this, we'll start with Ron. How will your election to the school board help ISD 197?
I think that a big piece of being on the school board is knowing what questions to ask. I'm a current teacher. I'm in a role as a digital learning specialist in high school. Prior to that, I was a classroom teacher at Kennedy High School for 5 years. I've been involved in committees at the district level doing leadership work since my first year teaching. Prior to that, I worked in the private sector. I've had a wide range of different experiences, and I bring that to the board. I'm endorsed by the Bloomington Federation of Teachers. They're behind me. They know that I'm somebody that should be on that board and make some of those decisions. We don't have current teachers on the board now, so this is something that a perspective that's important that we should be bringing. I'm a renter. That's not something that's typical of school board members. I bring a perspective as somebody that knows what it is to be managing a really tight budget and making decisions that have very strong competing priorities. Finally, I want to talk about the fact that in June, the Star Tribune reported that there are presently 8 transgender or non-binary people on school boards across the nation. We have over 15,000, it's like 15,500 something school boards across this nation. There are 8 transgender people on those boards. There are a lot of transgender kids in every single district, right? This perspective is not one that we have in power right now. If you decide to vote for me, I will be the 9th, if their reporting is to be believed, which, it's the Star Tribune, it's gotta be, right? Beyond that, I want to remind everybody that early voting started yesterday, and election day is November 7th. We've got 2 levies that are on the ballot that are also incredibly important to give our kids the money that they need to be successful. Regardless, if that levy passes, we're going to have a lot of decisions to oversee. If it doesn't, we're going to have a lot of cuts that are going to need to be overseen. Regardless, you want diverse perspectives on that board so that the right decisions are made with the most people in mind. So I hope that I can count on your vote November 7th. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. What would I bring to the board if elected? You've heard some of my motivations and some of the things that give me energy. The 2 things that come to mind, or I should say come to mind, are first and foremost. One, I think in my experience, I was chair of the MIT Annual Fund. So a board of 20 people, I'm chairing it. We're working with the staff to engage 140,000 alumni to get them to open up their wallets. I learned process, but I also learned our job was to ask good questions of staff. Don't accept on face value everything they're bringing. Doesn't mean you're combative, but you have to have a different perspective. In my background, some people might say, I don't want that background on the school board. I respect that. I'm not, I'll say it again, I'm not Joe privatize everything. Far from it. I believe in public schools. I believe in their mission. But the board will make better decisions and staff will be better served if they are asked challenging questions. Consent agenda is fine. Rubber stamp them as long as nothing gets slipped in. But votes, if they're always unanimous, that probably is a sign that there's not enough dialogue, enough questions being asked. On the more happy, upbeat side, I am excited at the prospect of being an ambassador. I like how school board members are assigned to each school. And I'll go back to my experience on the board I served in. If you spend 2 hours with somebody who maybe not the most glamorous position, but you find out what they're doing, and they can talk about it, and they're proud about it, they're gonna feel good about what they do. Or if you go into a classroom and you see a teacher who's going above and beyond to do some unique project with their students, and I wanna be in a position to go back to the community, and anytime I hear questions about what's going on in our schools, I will have these stories to tell. But more importantly, I want to encourage people to engage our schools. People who hadn't been to a high school football game in a long time would have loved last night, and they really would have loved all those kids singing. I mean, it was really special. That's something worth protecting, that's something worth enhancing, that's something worth promoting, and that's something I'm running for school board to make happen. Thank you.
Well, I've lived in the community for 40 years. I have 2 daughters that have graduated from Sibley High School. In fact, one of my daughters also went through Garbo, and she's now teaching Garbo. I have 2 grandchildren who are in the schools. one at Garlow and one at Heritage. Let's see, that's right, I was principal in the district for 13 years. I have a lot invested in this school district, and I really care about this school district. I care about our community. I care about our kids. I care about all of the children. I have lived in the district long enough for it to transition from majority white. Our student body is now 47% white. Our diversity it's an asset. It's fantastic because we have this opportunity for our students to all grow up in a multicultural, diverse environment. And we need to celebrate that. We need to see that as a strength, as an asset for us. I would like to continue to be able to contribute as I have as a school board member for the past 12 years. I stay current on what's happening in education. I go to the Minnesota School Board Association yearly conference. I go to the association, or let's see, what is it? It's the Association of Metropolitan School Boards. I go to their yearly conference. I'm active with our Minnesota Elementary Principals Association. I go to their yearly conferences. And besides that, as a retired principal, I belong to a group called Retired Principals of Minnesota, and we have monthly professional development sessions, monthly. So I work hard to stay current on what is best practice in education, what is happening in school law, what is happening in school finance, what's happening with the legislature. I feel like I don't want to just throw that out and say goodbye, I'm done. I'm not done yet, and I'm not done for everyone in our community. So I want to have another 4 years. Thanks.
I would really enjoy serving in this role because I sincerely believe with every part of me that every child deserves a place where they feel safe, seen, and valued. And that is who I am at my core. That is what I believe as an educator. It's what I believe as a human. And I would love to have an opportunity to advocate for all of our students in this role. I am an advocate for friends, for family members, for my own students, and I have been for 17 years as a public educator. I have always been, a classroom teacher. I intend to always be a classroom teacher. I love what I do. I love watching those moments for students where they have that aha moment, or I love when a student didn't think that they could do something and realizing that they can do something that they didn't believe they could do. And I think that there is so much power in the people in our district. Our diversity is one of our greatest strengths. The people we have in this district is our greatest strength, or are our greatest strength. And I just really love an opportunity to serve in this role. I am not somebody who is afraid to ask questions. I ask a lot of questions. And I intend, should I be elected into this role, to ask a lot of questions before I make decisions, to make sure that I'm engaging with all stakeholders before I do that. And I just look forward to an opportunity to work with any combination of the people up here. I think I'm very lucky to be among all of you, so thank you.
Every time I go to a meeting at school or have a conversation with another caretaker at pickup line or chat with a retired neighbor or engage in a conversation with a district employee, every time I'm constantly leaving these conversations and always have left thinking about something in a new way or being impressed with their insight or in awe of their approach to something, just amazed at the people in our community. When the idea of running for school board was ever suggested to me, I promptly said no. I could always think of several other people who would be such a great addition to our school board, and maybe, probably better than I, but I realized what I could do. In addition to my experience and care for our community, I would be excellent at representing the voices of our community, being a conduit for stakeholders, connecting insights and ideas that you all have with the board and administrators. It's not about my experience only, it's about being able to bring together voices, many often in different perspectives of the same issue. I remember an experience where a parent was telling me about a challenging time for their kiddo in their school, and it was hard for both mom and kid. And another time I was talking with an educator, and she was telling me about a trying time she had in her classroom earlier in that year. And later I realized they were both talking to me about the same incident. Two completely different perspectives of the same situation, both so valid and rooted in caring for our students. So my point is that's how my involvement on the school board would make ISD 197 better, by being someone who's not only able to hear many different perspectives, but to value them, empathize with them, and represent them at a school board level, to challenge our thinking and look at issues from different perspectives. My varied experience, having worn many different stakeholders' hats, has really prepared me with this regard. And in one sense, that's how I see myself advancing our district. Thank you for having this event and for having me. Thank you. Oh, I was last. We did it!
And really, I want to say a special thanks to Byron, to Morgan, to Randy, to Rowan, and to Tim for sharing their perspectives today. And if you could, give them a round of applause at this time. And before we wrap, I'd like to extend my gratitude not only to all the candidates for stepping up and sharing their perspectives on the critical issues here, but also to our community members who are in the audience, for offering your questions, for offering your time, and your willingness to engage in the democratic process here of electing our school board members. That shows your investment not only in our community, but also in our schools, therefore in our children, and in our future. So really, really appreciate that. And as we move forward to the election day, I encourage you all to continue engaging with the candidates that we've heard from today, asking questions and seeking out more information so that you are making that informed choice. As a reminder, and as Rowan said, they're not the only ones on the ballot this fall. We also have two very important levies. One is a renewal of a tech levy, the other is a new levy that will give additional funding to our kids, where we need it to provide that stability and support to continue to do all of the amazing things that everybody has shared today in these schools, in the school district, and in our community. And so if you want more information on that, please go over and grab a pamphlet to learn more about the levies, or talk to any of our current school board members or anybody else here to just learn more about the levies that will be on the ballot. And want to give a special thanks to the people who helped organize this, to the Garlow PTA, to the Moreland PTA, to the Heritage Booster, to help put this on, to make sure that you as a community are informed of what will be on the ballot this fall. I want to give a special thanks to the West St. Paul Reader, to Kevin back there for filming, and if you want to go check out more that he has over on the table there, you can learn more about the wonderful things that the West St. Paul Reader is doing. Kevin is also doing some incredible questions for our candidates that he is publishing on the West St. Paul Reader, so please continue to take a look at that to get the information that you need for this fall. Once again, I can't say it enough, stay engaged, continue to be part of this process. I love seeing all the faces here, and as we conclude, the candidates will be available to ask questions, to further the conversations, to follow up on anything that you heard that you want to ask further about, just really, really appreciate the time, and really appreciate you all for stepping up and being part of our community in this way. So with that, thank you all.